Hello everyone, and welcome to the 21st Century Human podcast, where we look at the tools and techniques that shape our skills to living in the 21st century. And we are today in a fantastic office. We're at Adobe today, and we're joined by John. And John, do you want to introduce yourself and say who you are and what you do?
Hi, so I'm John Watton. I'm Director of Marketing for Adobe here in Europe. And I look after all of our marketing that we do predominantly to our business audience. So working with our large customers and large enterprises.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm Bob Barker, by the way.
Hello. So we always start off with kind of like a quick one of what have you, anything interesting you've seen in the news this week, kind of thing, from anything that's caught your eye this week in terms of something you found interesting from a technology point of view or skills point of view. Is there anything anything you found interesting this week or?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, what we do here is we provide creative and marketing solutions, many of which people know and many of which people don't know, and that's part of my job as a marketer. But we're mainly in the business space talking to marketers about how to enable them to do great marketing, build amazing experience for their customers. And I think a big discussion right now is the whole social world and the role of social media in brands kind of connecting with customers. And there's been a lot of debate around the value of advertising in social media, and that's been really interesting for us. You've had names like Unilever saying they're considering withdrawing their their digital advertising because they see better return in other formats and so on. So I think that's really interesting for me. I think in terms of skills, I think what's really interesting is the kind of evolution of technology to enable what we do, and the whole AI and machine learning capabilities. So we just did a survey of about 14,000 marketers across Europe. AI was one of the topics which is absolutely on the horizon, but right now it's really only been enabled in about 15% of brands. So it's kind of on the kind of agenda. And I think that's really interesting about how the skill set within brands in the market department has changed and needs to change. And the roles that we do now, less about doing and more about kind of taking data, understanding data, and then driving insights. So, we need to think now about how we have the right set of skills to support this kind of AI-driven world where certain tasks now are automated, and then we provide value as humans, in other areas.
So when you say AI in the product, you mean being able to ask, so using voice to sort of say, show me the data of this and that and the other. What do you actually?
Yeah, there's that, and then also just a bit of algorithms to do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? To spot issues and trends in data. Yeah. In the past, you need to have someone who could dig into data and kind of bring out those insights. We're getting those insights surfaced, so you don't need so much of the deep data science, but you need someone who understands data. And more we're overwhelmed by data, right? Yeah. I mean, we've got thousands of data points. We've got, tools that are, low cost, if not free, to allow us to get insight into digital data. So if we automate all that, it's more not about getting the data, it's about driving decisions from the data. And we still believe at Adobe that is something that people and machines will work to very closely. The machines will enable a lot of the heavy lifting, but we still need some kind of human decision making, because in the world of marketing, you still need to do those extraordinary things, or those unexpected things, or those standout things, or those creative things, which still require a kind of person-based insight.
I saw a post on Twitter yesterday, I think, when one of the CTOs from a parent company put a post out about the increasing falsity as in AI kind of stuff. It's like, you can have the best neural networks in the world doing stuff, but if the data in your data lake's rubbish, it's the same problem. Yeah. I'm still not sure people have actually cracked the big data analytics piece to make sense of data wrangling to apply the AIs to as well, and that's part of the challenge as well.
And in the marketing world, I think that's the current number one challenge for brands, is getting that view of the customer, that 360 degree view of the customer across everything they do, and that's the number one challenge right now. The great news is we have the technology and we have the computing power to do it. It's typically, though, when I speak to brands about where they are in this, the number one barrier tends to be cultural and people and organisation and those things. So it's interesting, going back to skills, that a lot of the skills we need in getting technology projects enabled is the ability to persuade, influence, sell, value. There's a lot of soft skills. We still,
and I suppose my news thing is, but we've been doing quite a lot of coaching recently, and what's interesting or surprising is that people don't really know how to use the skill set that they've already got, and it's just come up time and time again, just in Office and the functionality that's now all embedded when you link to Teams and so on. People are it's just been a whoa. I
probably use Microsoft Office like it's 1995, right? So
I think most people do. That's the whole point. I think
I'm very competent at about 10% of the product.
I think we find that across the board with people, really, and that's the big disconnect we see in this world. I mean, we just talking about computing power. I mean, there's I think the story I was interested in this week is that there's a new Google and there's this race towards quantum computing coming out at the moment. So this race to get qubits in the cloud. So we're already talking about going from these esoteric supercomputer type things where you've got IBM, Microsoft and Google with like Bristol Cone and Alibaba now putting out in the cloud, in the public cloud, sort of qubit powered processors. Then you've got NVIDIA coming on. I mean, the compute power that can power these algorithms to do this stuff is vast.
Yes.
But I worry a little bit the fact that you're still going to have that human element to work out what are you going to do with it.
Yes.
And how does that affect Jeff?
Yes.
Who works, in Office 365 all day long. What does that mean to that person? Because otherwise it's going to be this abstract world racing away from people. And it doesn't really affect the day-to-day, the humans, everybody. It's a fascinating time to be alive right there with all this kind of thing going on.
It's
mad.
Yeah. So,
cool.
Tech on the table.
Yeah.
I can see what you've got here. So what's the technology you generally take
carry around with you?
So it is sadly all Apple technology. Sadly, in terms of being highly unoriginal, right?
Yeah.
To that perspective.
Not a watch though.
No. Oh well, I've got some stories about that. But one of the things actually I think about a soft skill that I need in the people who work here at Adobe. So in my group is curiosity. Always trying to explore.
You said digital
things.
curiosity.
Yeah,
you used that.
yeah.
I like that.
And so I believe it's a big part of my role as a marketer to understand, the various tools, techniques, channels, bits of kit, and it's fun as well, right? And it's easy, right? Because it's in our consumer lives. So a lot of the consumer tech, easily bleeds over into the business world. So whether that's building out an Instagram kind of channel or a YouTube channel or a Snapchat presence, or thinking about the mobile example. So I'll give you an example. Our kind of business area of Adobe.com, which is one of the world's most trafficked websites. Like 40% of our traffic comes from mobile devices.
Right.
So, it used to be like in B2B, that no one uses mobile, but of course they all, we know they all do.
Yeah.
So I have iPhone, Mac, iPad, those are devices. I did try a watch. I like watches, so it didn't quite appeal to me.
Yeah, you like. Yeah.
I like proper watches.
It's fascinating that they're now outselling Swiss watchmakers by something like a huge factor now.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when it first came out, the Apple Watch came out, and people kept denigrating it and saying, it doesn't work, it's not as good as that kind of stuff. But I think increasingly it's been proved wrong in terms of what's possible with that device. I think you still haven't got to pass that. People who actually like owning and wearing watches, so they haven't quite cracked that second device.
But when you're on your bike, do you use a watch?
I use Garmin GPS.
Garmin GPS.
So what I found with the Apple Watch is it failed my Starbucks test, which is I'm holding my phone, I have a cup of Starbucks, something comes in on the watch, I'm like, hang on, wait a minute, put down the things, because it's not a one-handed device, it's actually a two-handed device. A phone, I can do everything with my thumb. I can browse. I can look at email. So it failed that for me. And then the other failing for me was the boarding pass at British Airways.
Yeah.
It sounds great on your phone, on your watch, and then you try and get under the scanner, and my big fat wrists won't fit under the scanner. So I had to take it off, and then they had to scan it. I was like, all right, enough. But that was a while out. So I was like a V1 Apple Watch user.
Yeah, because the new one with the
new one's much better.
With the cellular one, it's untethered from the phone now as well.
I use it lap swimming, and it's pretty accurate. You know, it's pretty. And I just like to record the fact I'm doing one of its 40 laps or whatever it is, and it's good for that. And its battery life's much better.
Are you Apple at home as well in the household and stuff? Yes. You're fully kind of bought into the ecosystem type of thing.
Ecosystem.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I mean, I have a personal iPhone, a work iPhone. I have a work iPad, a home iPad. I've always had iPods.
Yeah.
And actually, when it comes to tech, what I do like is kind of single use. I do like single use technology, like an iPod that just plays music. Not that I use it anymore, or a Kindle that just allows you to kind of look at of books. Because I do like the idea at some point in your digital life, just focusing, and not being distracted. But anyway, I'm wall-to-wall Apple.
And do you put any extra bits on the phone for photography or anything like that, or just use the functionality within the app?
So you mean the the Apple
360
photos,
anything like that.
No. So I use no surprise
Adobe products.
Lightroom, Lightroom CC, so for the phone. And the amazing thing about that is you can deliver all the power into the phone from the cloud.
So just explain what Lightroom is for people.
So it's kind of like it's a very easy photo editing
from Adobe.
From Adobe, it's our product. I guess people are familiar with Photoshop, which is a little bit more richer in its functionality, and typically for if you want to go a lot further and do the ultimate kind of photo editing. Whereas Lightroom, the way I see it, is first of all it gives you simple editing, and also gives you a library capability to store your photos all up in the cloud. And of course now what we can do is deliver the high-end processing in the cloud and then deliver it back to the phone.
Right.
Whereas in the past you had to have a powerful desktop PC to run these photo packages, right, and video packages. You can now do it all on the phone. So it's the beauty of the cloud infrastructure that we now have.
Yeah, Adobe seem to have taken not a mobile first approach, but I think you've got a really good balance between the functionality of your apps versus the desktop capability. So,
I mean, if you think about what we've been offering, so you go back 10 years, we were a box software. I mean, we were talking earlier.
I think the last
you buy your box of software.
I bought Master Collection CS 5.5. I think it came in a nice box for the CD. It did have a digital key as well and a digital download, but it was still a physical thing that got delivered.
And there were good things and bad things about that, right? There was people sometimes like to have a physical thing, but I think conceptually we were all moving away from
that. Yeah.
Physical things, CDs, moving into even cars, right? Just using car sharing. Yeah. Here in London, kind of bike sharing. I think we're getting away from the idea of ownership, so I think it's a comfortable idea.
Yeah.
But we were basically delivering boxes of software.
Yeah.
Through distributors. So you probably bought it from
it was a reseller channel,
or something.
Yeah.
To now, we've moved it all into the cloud.
Yeah.
So it's all provisioned in the cloud, which allows us to deliver some benefits in terms of upgrades and updates, and you don't suddenly have this box of software that is whatever it was.
Yeah, it was I can't remember, £4,000 or £5,000. I think
and it's 10 years old.
Yeah, I bought a Mac version and a PC version. I think.
And every time we have to send you some CDs, and then you might forget to do it, and then suddenly you find you're no longer supported if you're in the subscription kind of basis. So that's the one thing, and I think obviously what we've seen as well is people want to be creative wherever they are. So if they're out and about with an iPad or an iPhone, they want to capture, we know this right through Instagram platforms and Snapchat. People want to capture moments, share them quickly, and so, we've kind of, try to get ahead of that and make our, move our apps from being very desktop based to much more mobile based.
It's the speed, isn't it?
And as a result, also in sync, you've got to make something that's very easy and accessible.
Yeah.
Because people, don't have the time to spend an hour doing something, want to make a few edits, share it, send it to social networks, put it up into the cloud, whatever it is, and sort of
get on with it. I suppose it's a very competitive, that aspect of dealing with that fast piece for you guys as well. It's a very competitive marketplace because there's a million apps and a million ways to do that kind of thing. So standing out in that crowd is quite hard as well.
What about I like about a cloud-based business is its subscription, and it keeps you, keeps you honest, but people can cancel subscriptions and go as well. And the cost of switching between cloud platforms now is lower than buying box software. It's sometimes, depending on how you use it, not that easy, but we know that consumers have a choice, and it's relatively easy to make that switch. So yeah, we have to provide offerings that that have to meet a very high bar.
Yeah.
I mean, consumer expectations are like crazy in terms of, because they're not only accessing, tools in your space, but they're accessing digital tools from other adjacent sectors. So I don't know, whatever your benchmark is, they expect an Amazon experience or whatever it is, and that bleeds into just their expectation of any kind of app, and they're very they have very little tolerance, so they'll just go, whatever, I'll move on to something else.
Yeah, the loyalties disappears, doesn't it, I suppose.
There's got to be quite a lot of because you've got such a portfolio of products. There's got to be quite a lot of the integration of various things.
That's right. So you take something like Photoshop Mix or or Lightroom or some other kind of mobily enabled photo edit. They're not just photo editing software where you save something onto your phone. You can share it into your cloud library. If you are a creative or a blogger or a vlogger, you can put it up into your kind of your creative community. Like we have Behance, which is where the world's designers kind of share their content.
Behance.
Yeah, it's like a social network for designers and artists. So so it's that connectivity, and if you're a creative or a freelancer who's doing some work for a company, you can load it up, and then the people within the company have all those assets immediately, so they can share it. So yeah, I mean, we're not trying to provide sort of point offerings.
No.
What we're trying to do is show the value of a kind of a life cycle that you go through when you're building creative assets.
Makes sense.
Right, our wheel. You've had a look at our wheel, our seven wheel. So we just go around that. Yep. So starting with sensing. So how do you keep up with what sort of your news diet, and when do you do it, and how do you do it?
Yeah. So actually, I've kind of shifted things the last few months, to be honest, on that front. I've always been again, I say, kind of a doctor of
social media,
and and everything, and because it's also relevant to my profession, let alone it's something which allows me to connect with interesting people. But what I found was that the kind of being in the platform was overriding the actual value I was getting out of it.
Sure.
So a great example is Facebook. It's a great way. I love it, connecting with friends and family. I keep it mainly personal, but when I scroll through my feed, it's just endless brands and suggested posts, and
which is where they hopefully they've changed their algorithm and taken a hit, and they actually remove some of that brand thing, and that's having probably a massive effect on brand advertising and marketing.
So I wouldn't see a single human, in this feed until about 3 pages until a friend posted something, and the algorithm, the way it's surfaced it. So they clearly have this is clearly being felt through their wider user community, and they're making these product changes. Yeah. So it just got me to thinking about why I use social media, and for me it is getting to content, and I like getting to content from real people first and foremost. And I made a kind of personal commitment to kind of change around the way I use it. So getting to news, actually what I've done is I actually now kind of religiously every day read both the London Times, the Times as we would call it, and the New York Times as well, as kind of two kind of platforms.
Paid subscriber to those as well.
I was a paid subscriber, but I never read the
when you say not a physical but an online
digital. Yeah. So on my phone, and they both do really good. Like a lot of publications, kind of your daily briefing in the morning by email. So that's a nice one. There's another one that I like, which is called Need to Know, which is a more of a US one, but it kind of sends you the sort of 8 to 10 top news things. It's a mixture of mainly news, a little bit of kind of culture and arts type thing. That's quite useful. So I use that. I used to just throw myself into Twitter basically in the morning, and I don't do that so much anymore.
But are you noticing and sharing from those sources as well? So
yes.
This is something you'll say, hey.
The challenge you have with like New York Times is all their content's
behind the paywall.
Yeah. So that's the only downside in terms of sharing. Yeah. But I definitely wanted to shift to more content, less social media, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And
it's more of a trusted, curated content stuff, where you trust the journalism a bit more, maybe potentially.
Yes, and my Facebook experience now, I've kind of pared it back really to the people I know, not the brands that I like, And that, now it's great because you're not kind of scrolling through and suddenly you've got a time sink and you've spent an hour and a half or whatever it is. Now, I can look at Facebook and within 15 minutes, I've caught up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm back into yesterday's stuff. And actually what it shows you is that people aren't sharing as much content they used to. All you're seeing is recommended posts because this person liked them in the past. But what I actually realized, people I connected to aren't actually putting any original content on Facebook. So anyway, from a news point of view, those, I use the BBC.
Yeah.
And then I do use Twitter, but I used to use Twitter mainly, as my first place to go, but now less so.
And are you using a TweetDeck or something to organise just?
I use TweetDeck, and everything's organised into lists, which has been really useful. So I put them into sort of work. There's kind of a short list. You're on my short list, Bob. Don't worry.
Thank you. And you're Jay Watton, aren't you?
I'm Jay Watton.
Jay Watton.
Jay Watton on Twitter.
Yeah.
Actually, from a content perspective, the platform I really like is Instagram.
Yeah.
Because that is in its the kind of style of it. It's all content. It's all original content. People putting up moments of photography and
you take some good pictures.
And
all through Adobe's filters, I'm sure. But
it's an interesting one though, because it is a good creative mechanism. Also, I think, and it forces you, if you want to use it from rather than just moments in time or photographs of coffee and stuff like that, it forces you to be creative in storytelling. So it's a different skill set that people are self-training, isn't it? In terms of using Instagram to tell stories.
Yeah.
And from a marketing news perspective, have you got any particular favourite sites apart from CMO.com, of course?
Yes, our site. Yes. No, I've got a curated list, and I can't recall, but over the years I've been using Twitter. I don't know for whatever.
What about then sort of like you're saying about a bit that pulling back a little bit and tuning up. What about personal brand yourself then, in terms of how actively you use? With personal brand, we're interested really in how you present yourself to the world, and the kind of care and attention you look at, how you show up on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, this kind of stuff, and then also and blog, and then using those channels as well from like a research engagement point of view as well. That kind of thing. There's the two aspects of it, rather than just broadcast and consumption. So.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that marketers just think like publishers, and I think because I'm in this profession as well, I think like that.
You are your brand type of thing.
Well, listen to your audience, and then So what I found was Facebook for me is a great mechanism for friends and family. Twitter is more work. And Instagram is kind of somewhere in between. It's not really work, but it's more of a creative outlet. And I do think about what I post on all those platforms, and I certainly don't post,
but the same thing.
Same thing,
on
every
not
channel.
Like a blunt instrument. There's some nuance in where you put
I know on Instagram that you kind of acquire a following of people, if you can call it that, or just some connections, who are interested in photography and moments and imagery. Which I know when I post that on Facebook, lovely sunset over Old Street, I don't get any likes. So I'm like, okay, if I posted something about my kids, like 100 likes,
rugby,
or my son's playing rugby, whatever it is. So listen to your audience, right? So I'm not going to bother them with the stuff that. So these are really good feedback mechanisms to understand what's good and what's not good.
Yeah.
And I do the same. I'm a bit like someone said the average teenage girl spends an hour putting one post on Instagram, taking a photo, typically of herself, a selfie, right? Takes 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times. That takes 10, 20 minutes. Then edits it,
bit of retouching.
A bit of retouching. It has the right,
filter.
kind of, and then the right comment and everything. That takes another 10, 15 minutes. Posts it, waits for any likes, doesn't get any, deletes them and does it again. I feel like that. That
is that what you do?
That's what I do. I take selfies. I don't think I've ever taken a selfie.
No,
I might take one a year.
Lots of your bike.
Yeah.
Well,
people love bikes. They love
bikes.
Well, middle-aged men.
That's definitely a subculture, there, isn't it?
But it's a great feedback, and that's all I've done is I've looked at what gets retweeted, what gets liked.
But that to me is a fascinating thing, though, because we're interested in how people learn digital skills, and that to me is a step up from the norm. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That teenage girl thing. If you think what she's doing, she's not just been expert at the tool, and then the app, and then the filters, and the audience, and the word and the content. I mean, trying to teach someone how to do that versus learning how to do it to be good is that there's a real gap there, I think, in terms of how, especially inside the enterprise, how we expect people to suddenly just be good at that, versus like you said, how do you you've obviously tried things and then worked out yourself where those communities are and how that works.
And it's not about getting likes. It's about, for me, it's still about having a conversation.
Sure.
It's just a measure of people are finding this interesting. It's not like, my aim is to get more likes.
No.
But it's using the platform and understanding that these platforms can give you, if you want to develop, if you're a young kid and you want to be a blogger and write about content, or a vlogger, or you can get all this feedback. And so it's not about kind of self-affirmation of how good you are. It's about taking this as as kind of a learning and saying, okay, I'll shape my content accordingly, because I think all these different channels have different roles, and they should meet whatever role you want, but think about them instead of just pressing the button and just publishing it to everything, which some people do, right? And it's becoming less and less, but some people still do,
So when you do a blog or a piece, you've got the work side of it, so that AI piece you did the other day, and then you've got your own blog.
Yeah.
So how do you balance?
That's interesting.
What's the thing with the marketing department, with your Adobe hat on versus the John Watton hat on, and how do you?
Well, so. Yeah, in terms of personal brand, so I guess this is professional content. So in my job here, we have our owned assets, and then we have kind of third party kind of content which I get involved in, and that's one thing. And then you're right, I have my own blog, johnwatton.com, which is around
everybody follow that
/blog, which is where I still talk about marketing. But the decision I make is. Really, I think my personal brand, if you take away my, is more of relaxed. I like to sort of relate to moments in my life, however interesting or not they are. I like music. I like cycling. I like whatever, and I try and relate to things like that. So I've done a lot of posts like about cassettes and New Order and other these kind of things that make me think about digital. And so they're a little, I wouldn't say left field, that's kind of colouring them too strongly as kind of really crazy, but and also I'm not naturally a great writer, so when I do these things I typically want to do it within 500 words. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to write a long tome, and it's quite painful for me to write content. Just
so the marketing department here is helping you write.
But no, I mean I don't get anything kind of ghostwritten. Everything I have to write. And my own personal stuff. I try and make it a little bit more
interesting,
light-hearted. Let's say.
We look at tools and abilities then, in terms of we try to get people to give us a sense of what does work. What's your ecosystem look like inside of work. So you're obviously a Mac. Shop, that kind of stuff. I think you said when you came in, the staff got a choice between the ecosystem for the hardware.
Yes.
From a software point of view, I mean, in terms of the main productivity tool sets you use, are you an office shop? Do you use 365 or
so we
Google?
Use,
or
Office, and so Outlook and all the kind of productivity apps. SharePoint,
Teams,
OneNote. What's your internal collaboration channel? Are you Skype for Business, or are you yammering, or are you?
We have a few, all of the above.
WhatsApp, or
well, what I actually, I guess between individuals, more and more it's WhatsApp. And I've kind of standardized on that as well, because. It's good to standardize on one tool, but also I'm interested in making my team kind of use these tools, because these are more of the consumer tools out there. We also have Jabber, and Yammer, and Skype, and
lots of tools.
Do you use various ones for various things? So if you've got a team collaboration, is that all on something apart from WhatsApp? So WhatsApp's the default for everything, but is there as it's fixed into your infrastructure?
We sometimes find that there's there's the corporate mandated tool sets. You've got Office 365, so you've got Yammer. But actually the default corporate standard is actually WhatsApp, which isn't a corporate platform.
We don't really have a default corporate standard. We're not.
So you're kind of flexible
for messaging, and like a lot of the teams on collaboration in more the product side use Slack and things like that. We don't on the marketing side. The reason why we use WhatsApp is just a lot easier to message. Between international phones, we just found for whatever reason,
and it's speed, I suppose. As well.
And you have the little, kind of reaffirmation someone's got your message. You wait for the 2 blue ticks, the magic 2 blue ticks.
We asked the question about tools and abilities, really, because we was going back to that point we were talking about using Office like we used it in 1995, this kind of thing, because we see the world around us evolving where it's becoming hyper-connected. So you as a consumer can basically daisy chain together services, because everything has like an API these days. You can when we train people in things like if this then that.com, MyTTT or Microsoft Flow or Zapier, that kind of thing, and we sometimes find that the disconnect is between, if you're not really skilled at using the current tools you're provided with, then the ability to then use this hyper-connected stuff is always a little bit out of reach, that kind of thing as well. And
I totally agree.
And what about your own tools as well, the Adobe tools? How are people learning, if it's skilling up that infrastructure, that tool set? How are people typically learning that these days? I mean, we were talking about that before, weren't we? Where my daughter was taught it all at college. So people are coming into the workplace. If you're creative,
you're skilled in that tool.
You've done those skills at college. Yeah. But is there a Adobe University? Is there a kind of an online university?
Use our tool. So our enablement tools, whether Adobe's or like Microsoft or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I mean we don't really. We kind of. Definitely, I think like a lot of tech companies is kind of on the job training and the old kind of work. A lot of self-service content that we provide.
Right.
It's all there, but no one sits you down and say like, this is how you build a collaborative space. This is how you run a kind of collaboration and and this is how you message or anything like that.
Because people just learn off one another.
We tend to see there's been a shift from kind of physical training where people sit down and coach to there's been this big shift to outsourcing it to the individual, but that's generally involved like an LMS system where it's all just is a video if you want to watch it. And that kind of thing as well. But these tend to be functional explanations of how a software product works versus bring it to life to show how it
I suppose in a creative environment, you're going to go and ask other people quite easily, aren't you?
Yeah, and we naturally hire people more suited just because of the industry in and the solutions we provide. So naturally more sort of digitally competent people, if I can call it that, who kind of embrace these tools and comfortable learning them and don't feel like, oh my god, I'm out of my depth, I wouldn't know where to start. Which is different to some companies.
How do you then? I mean, when we talk collaboration at speed, we're not really talking about using collaboration software per se, but if you think of yourself as being like an outside-in person, so you're at the facing off the outside world in that sense, how do you got any tips and tricks about how you share stuff that you think has value to the internal, to the teams, that kind of stuff? Is there any good lessons that you guys found that work well in terms of how you share content? Or is it just done I found it's a good link from WhatsApp, you should have a read of this?
I mean, a lot of this sounds very basic, but I think because we move so fast as well, I think you can remember that when you share anything, it's a continual communication thing. So one of the things that we want our teams to be is thinking ahead of the curve and being innovative and trying new things. And you can't just send an email and say, hey, everyone be innovative.
Well, you'd be surprised.
It's like corporate away day. Let's have fun the next hour. Okay. We'll
go and be more digital. It's a common one.
And so we just set up forums to do that. So we have global company initiatives like Kickbox, which is about providing a framework for driving teaming and brainstorming around creative ideas. So the company kind of funds that kind of structure, has a kind of train the trainer on a sort of 2-day kind of workshop. Someone's nominated as that lead, and these ideas go back into the business in terms of suggestions for the company. So that's worked very well. We have something called Idea Lab as well, which is providing that framework. So providing the framework, you still need to get people to use it. And then myself, I just make sure that within team forums, team meetings, we are making time to talk about things that we need to talk about from an innovation point of view, recognizing best practices, and and it's just management discipline. You need to be doing this all the time. You can't just have a one-off hit, an off-site, and then wish them.
Which is a perfect link into leadership, really, in terms of that digital leadership, in terms of spreading your knowledge and stuff. And just as a sense of the entire corporation, when we often see these edicts like the innovation one, go and be more collaborative, go and be more innovative, go be more digital, and we're looking at this idea of maybe not humble leadership, but do you see in Adobe, I mean, I'm talking about a turn or not, but is there an expectation that the senior leaders in the business actually evoke that skill set, evoke that digital leadership. They don't just tell people, you know, you go and do that. We're not doing. What's your general sense of?
I mean, we're not a kind of, you know, marching orders kind of company. So, you know, as a leader myself in my group, you know, I'm not just giving people those orders. I'm expected to kind of, you know, inspire people and
so you've got to be seen to be doing it.
So luckily I am very active in digital. It's probably why, you know, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And you know, I'm very keen to encourage the team to do that as well. So all the things, you know, I want people to be on these networks. I want them to be, you know, connecting with peers. I want them to go to third-party events. I want them to, you know, download apps. I want them to come with ideas. We try and share best practice. You know, you've got to be clear when you share best practice about why you're doing it. Because it meets to sort of an objective, which is, you know, whatever. It's creative thinking. It's, you know, it's you know, data-driven, you know, ideas. It's, you know, focus on measurement, whatever it is, you know, and you got to keep kind of reinforcing that so people kind of understand.
Do you find that like a, you know, when dealing with enterprise customers? Do you think? I mean, do you obviously value that as a mindset that the team have when you go to deal with customers? You know, actively turning up and not just trying to sell a digital product, but actually, you know, living as a human in that world. It sort of seems like something that's like an ethos or something that's quite important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, you know, we also get people to think outside of their normal kind of responsibility, because that kind of, you know, industrial age way of thinking, I have 10 tasks to do. If I do my 10 tasks, you know, I've done my job. You know, we need people to be helping the company, you know, to kind of come up with new ideas and help customers in different ways and see opportunities and things that aren't necessarily responsibility. And that's really hard for a lot of people to get their kind of head around that, you know, which is, it's not just a bunch of goals and objectives, you know, personal MBOs. You've got to be, you know, providing input and being, you know, collaborating with other people and, you know, and having an opinion on things, and not in a disruptive way, but, you know, if you see an opportunity, you know, kind of speak out and, you know, and be vocal, and that's really hard. So we expect people to, you know, we talk about the sort of T-shaped marketer, have a specialism and then, you know, kind of a breadth. It's like a T-shaped kind of person. Okay, you're in marketing, but you know, if there's something on service, support, sales, you know, we need you to kind of
it's going to be broader.
So talking about new ideas, the whole sort of tone of voice, sound. So, you know, what you're doing for pictures, you're doing for sound. Do you want to just talk about that?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because with voice interfaces, they are becoming more and more the interface between a consumer and a brand. And at the moment, they're generic, you know, bland kind of voices. And so, you know, one thing that we think about, I mean, we've all talked about tone of voice in marketing, but as related to brand imagery or written copy, now it quite literally is tone of voice. You know, if all brands are speaking through Siri or Alexa, you know, where's your differentiation? You know, where's your, you know, we have certain brand attributes which we feel are very differentiated to some of our competitors. How do we bring that forward? So that's something that, you know, that we're kind of interested in and looking at, is how do you provide that kind of quite literal kind of tone of voice if you're going to be marketing or having a relationship through, you know, a voice interface. So it's
that's going to be quite challenging from a country perspective, isn't it?
Well, it's a slippery slope as well, because I mean, you've got that kind of serious voice bit, and then you slip down to the early sat-navs. Remember when it was like you used to get like your sat-nav sound like Homer Simpson shouting at you? You know, you've got that kind of comedy celebrity piece as well. There's a dangerous line when you go away from the kind of the professional voice down into kind of comedy values type of stuff as well.
Well, I mean, I just literally last night was choosing a voiceover artist for some of our advertising, right? Your advertising. So naturally, I'm gravitating towards a voice that I feel sums up our brand or communicates our brand, whether it's, you know, kind of well-spoken or a little bit edgy or conveys a bit of humour in the tone, or they have, you know, this was for a British voiceover, so do they sound very home counties and very serious? Or, you know, do they, you know, sound a little bit more, you know, kind of southeast London, you know, kind of a little bit edge to them, because, you know, we want to be a little bit more cool and creative, and for whatever reason that's more associated with that voice. So we're doing it anyway in the kind of talent we look at for advertising, and so it's something that brands, you know, really need to.
I mean, I can see that being like, I mean, when you've got sort of we talk about creatives like Behance sharing their imagery. I mean, that voice is going to be one where the sound artists are going to basically license their voices, because with your software like Voco, which is like Photoshop for voice, and you can just recreate things, with algorithms these days. I think the days of almost hiring someone to come into a sound room and read something to you to produce a voiceover is going to be, that's got a really finite.
So once you've got that voice, once you've got Welsh probably, between the two of you, if you've got that, if you decided that's what it is, can you capture that and then you can recreate it?
So the Voco project that Lewis is referring to is exactly that. Yeah. So we can apply AI, algorithms to take a snippet of voice.
Yeah.
And as computing power kind of increases, that snippet of voice we need is less and less, right?
Yeah.
So like a few years ago, we needed 3 minutes of you speaking, for us to be able then to recreate words, because we've got all of the phonetics that we need.
Yeah.
Now,
intonation.
So. And then you can take, so you at the moment you have voiceover editing software that you see the waveform of the speech, and then you have the text, and you can cut and paste. You can take out words, because obviously you want to tighten things up and edit them, and you can move things around a little bit. Now you can just create totally new words.
Remove all the ums and ahs.
Yeah. So take all the ums and ahs, and then if you haven't said, I don't know, chocolate or or biscuit or something, we can just type in chocolate and biscuit, and then based on everything else you're saying, we can recreate those words in your tone of voice.
Right. And the dark side of that gets quite scary, doesn't it?
It's like anything else. It's like, what do you trust? You can't trust your eyes, you can't trust your ears. And I think that's one of those ones. People are going to have to develop that sense of understanding what they're looking at and what they're listening to.
And also I think it comes back to brands and, generally around authenticity and trust. And, you can, there's so much technology that you can abuse, and a lot of brands quite rightly choose not to, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not ethical, or it's not trustworthy, or it's against their values. So the same things apply. So when we announced this kind of, people were very, you saw the flip side of, but I think just because you can doesn't mean you will.
No. It's like, about 2 years ago, I think HSBC switched. I don't use telephone banking anymore. I use it all online. But 2 years back, they switched me to on telephone banking. So I now say my voice is my password. Yeah. Well, my voice is my password, provided no one's got Voco stood next to me, and I don't have to say my voice is my password. Yeah. They can record this conversation or take this off the podcast potentially and recreate my voice is my password.
Yeah.
That's not that far away. That kind of that world have been doing those kind of things, haven't they?
Time for a new one.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Final one is lifestyle. Quantifying yourself and using your Strava and all the rest of it. So, what kind of digital information
I've tried a lot of things.
Yeah.
Again, being digitally curious.
Yeah.
So I had way back when I had Withings or Ythings, for example, which was really good for me, to track your weight and when you're trying to think about that. So that was probably 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
Still use it occasionally, just like you do on any device. I've had all the Fitbits and all those things. I think, from a kind of wellness and fitness, I think it's still getting that 360 view that I've really struggled with. And like the Fitbit for me, just because you do 10,000 steps doesn't mean anything, right?
No.
And actually 10,000 steps is quite a low bar in terms of, it's better than being sedentary, right?
If that gets you going,
but it's not gonna, you're not gonna,
run marathons.
No. It's like some people think I've done my 10, I'm super healthy, right? And I think the main thing for me is really around kind of lifestyle and wellness is kind of the food side of it, and capturing that. And I know you can enter in the food you've eaten, but we still haven't quite got there, in terms of that side of things, which is, when you're looking at wellness. That's the major determinant, really, is what you put into your body. You can't exercise your way out of kind of
calories put in.
So I've tried all those things. Apple Watch, I've had the various Fitbits. They kind of go in fits and starts.
Have you done the DNA Fit thing?
No,
23andMe.
No, I've thought about it.
Yeah. Well, there's a 23andMe.
It's like going to the doctor. Do you really want to find out?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that the information you get is generic across everybody. Yeah. So it's not yet getting specific. So I want to know. Well, why do I feel tired in the afternoon? Now there's a natural thing of things, and a blood sugar thing. But I can't get precise about it yet.
Yes.
Yes, so I'm still, it says, they say, you've got to take more omega 3.
Yeah.
But really? Is that really going to help? And how do I track whether it is working or not?
Do you have any? Have you got any corporate wellness programs or anything like that in work?
Yes. So we have the health program where you get subsidised kind of gym membership and kind of the points and. You do some of the
annual wellness check.
You do group stuff, and we're all going to go on a run or something, or a Tough Mother, or
all that stuff, and the wellness checks and access to private health and ability to do these kind of
And there's a running track on the roof of the building.
There's a running track on the roof
of the building.
So,
no excuses
on the 15th floor.
You've got to run up there first.
And then as a company, like down in the basement, we've got space for like hundreds of cycles. It's for the building. I mean, it's not for us. And, and we have the cycle to work scheme and all that stuff. And I've bought a few bikes on that. And So I think, as you might expect, I mean, we're pretty advanced on that kind of taking it, stress counselling, all that kind of stuff.
That was the other thing as well, because wellness, sometimes people just fixate on the physical thing, but the mental side of thing is increasingly important as well in terms of kind of counselling.
Yeah, and I think in the digital world, what I find is all of us at some point you get kind of overwhelmed, by digital
switch off
and fear of missing out, and checking your phone 100 times, and you feel yourself reaching the phone, and even now I've been talking half an hour. Oh my God,
What's happened?
Happened? And nothing.
The incredible. I like that. My favourite one is the Vibrating Leg Syndrome. That's my favourite one. Okay, legs. Oh, my legs vibrating. Oh, no, my phone's on the desk. You got that kind of false limb syndrome thing going on. I get that one.
Moving on. So are we going to do
quick fire round?
Want to do the quick fire round?
Okay. So quick fire round. You can either one or the other, or both. Okay. A bit of fun. So Apple or Android?
Apple.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Probably Star Trek.
See, that's the proper geek answer. That's supposed to. So LinkedIn or Twitter?
Twitter.
365 or Google Apps?
365.
WhatsApp or Slack?
WhatsApp.
We'll go for that. Dropbox or SharePoint?
Dropbox.
It seems like it's Office 365 and everybody hates SharePoint in terms of
not OneDrive.
I didn't say that.
This is why we like Teams though as a product, because it's kind of like it takes away all the horribleness of SharePoint and makes it look nice and usable. VR or AR? As a creative.
AR. I like AR.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Fitbit or Apple Watch? Try them both, or
say the Strava thing if you like.
Or Garmin.
Garmin, yeah.
Podcast or YouTube? So audio or
podcast.
Okay.
Podcast, yes.
What's your top podcast for a recommendation? Anything you like?
Well, for entertainment, I love Adam Buxton.
Okay, yeah.
He interviews actors and musicians, and my interest in music. I love what's the Evan Davis one on Radio 4? His business book podcast.
Yes, I know that. Yeah, cool.
It's on tonight actually.
So ITunes or Spotify?
Spotify.
Okay. Yeah. So you're Apple ecosystem, but you're a SaaS man for Spotify as opposed to buying albums on iTunes.
Yeah.
Now, the question we asked is: did you switch? Did you come from a thing? Have you got a massive iTunes library that you bought, and you've switched across to streaming from Spotify?
Yes. Yeah, massive. I mean, I had 15,000 tracks on iTunes.
Yeah.
It's not huge, but it's bigger than most.
So now you're on like a $9.99 or family a month Spotify account.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Black cabs or Uber?
Uber.
And Amazon or eBay?
For what?
Well, this is the funny one. So just for online purchasing and stuff like that, we've seen this shift of people used to use eBay quite a lot for buying and selling stuff, and we've seen some people have shifted away from having bought anything on eBay or sold anything on eBay for years now.
Yeah. No, I buy virtually everything from Amazon.
From Amazon, yeah. Got a Prime membership then.
Yeah. And I use Prime Now and all that, which I think is just blows my mind. But then again, it's like we just go into a shop, so what's the big deal? Yeah. It's like, oh my God, I get it within 2 hours. Like, okay, but you could go up to the shops and get it. But for selling, eBay. I haven't sold anything on Amazon Marketplace really.
No. Okay. Yeah, and that's it. So the last thing then is our Desert Island apps.
Yes.
So this is a Radio 4 rip-off, which we've been in. So it's the top three apps you couldn't operate with. We give you your phone, you give you email, and we give you maps as standards. What are the top three apps on your mobile phone that you'd have if you were marooned on a desert island?
Spotify.
It's a good
one. The
one.
world's music at your fingertips.
Yeah.
40 million tracks for $9.99 a month. I'm not an investor in Spotify. No. It sounds like an ad, but I just don't get people who don't pay for it. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, no, what about
I used to buy records, right? Where you get 10 tracks for £15.
Yeah.
So in my wildest dreams, I might get 500 tracks a year, and I'll spend like 100 odd quid.
Yeah. I still can't get my other half's head round that fact. She still buys albums off of iTunes. I'm like, I don't get it, because you don't actually own them anyway. You buy from iTunes, you still physically don't actually own that asset.
Young, like getting a physical thing and looking at the album cover, which we used now.
Instagram,
cool.
I publish some lovely photos.
Yes.
Palm trees and coconuts, and you
have you had 3 now?
That was 2.
Spotify, 2. Instagram, and probably Strava, so I could beat my personal best for doing whatever.
Loops
1 kilometre around my
island.
Try and keep fit, eating bananas and coconut and running.
And finally, we ask sort of what, we know that you're digitally curious, but what is it that drives that? Where does that come from? What makes you like that, do you think? Is it because you've always been in this area, or what?
Well, I'm in marketing and technology, so, but it's not always the case that people are digitally curious, which I'm always amazed at, because it's not like I'm an accountant. I need to go home and learn about double entry bookkeeping or whatever. So this is quite fun, but I think it's more about just thinking about my kind of work life, and about 15 years ago I was like, to keep up, you've got to be at the front. You've got to at least understand this stuff, relate to it. I think the kind of work environment means our structures are much more flatter than they were. You've got to be closer to things. So in management 15-20 years ago, you could be detached from all
just
stuff.
Direct kind of,
you have to be you have to understand. It's kind of the two sides of kind of the job is setting the strategy, but understanding the implementation. And then we're just all working. We're going to be working longer, right?
Yeah.
Retirement age, as we get fitter and we have longer lives. So, from my professional perspective, I've got decades to go. Touch wood. I know the decades are getting shorter, so I like the thought that I'm always learning something new, and I'm not just on board now. What more is there to learn? So I've had that kind of desire to learn, knowing that I'm going to have to be working for much longer than I anticipated when I was 21. I think one of my pension schemes finished at 55, right? I mean, it's laughable, right? Yeah. So not that it's going to pay anything now. But anyway, so your expectations change. So I think that's where it's come from.
Yeah.
Just knowing that I've got to stay ahead of the game, stay kind of current and contemporary, and that I've got decades to work. So you've got to be always learning.
Cool. Great. I think that's a perfect note to wrap up. Actually.
Yes, thanks very much, John.
You're welcome.
Perfect thing. And another episode of the 21st Century Human Podcast, and we'll be up online soon, and hopefully see you next time for the next episode. Thanks very much. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfecto. Cool. That was awesome. That was slightly longer than we planned.